All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to talk about a skill that's like the secret backbone of the entire digital world, creating tables in SQL. And believe me, these aren't just boring rows and columns. They are the invisible architecture holding up absolutely everything, from your favorite game to massive corporate databases. So, let's get into it.
So here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with the basics. What even is a database table? Then we're not going to waste any time. We'll get our hands dirty and write our very first create table command. After that, we'll dig into how you set up rules to protect your data, how to make your life way easier with default values, and finally, we'll see how this one skill is used everywhere, from your own projects to running the entire world.
Okay, first things first. Let's start at the very beginning, with the absolute foundation. What exactly is a database table?
I mean, really think about it for a second. Every single time you log into a website or an app saves your progress in a game, there's a database working behind the scenes. And how does it remember all that stuff? Well, the answer lies in one simple but really powerful concept.
It's the database table. And here's the cool part. If you've ever used a spreadsheet, like Excel or Google Sheets, you already get the basic idea. A table is just a grid for organizing information. Each row is a unique thing, like a user or a product, and each column is a specific piece of information about that thing, like a username or a price.
Here's another great way to picture it. Imagine your database is a giant filing cabinet. Inside that cabinet, you have all these different folders, right? One for customers, one for products, another for orders. Well, each one of those folders is basically a table, keeping all the related information neat, tidy, and super easy to find.
All right, that's enough theory. Let's get hands-on and actually build one of these things. This is where we get to draw the blueprint for our data.
The magic command we use is create table. It's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the instruction we give to the database telling it, hey, I need a new spot to store some information, and here are the exact rules for how it should be structured. You can think of it like an architect handing over the final plans to a construction crew.
Now take a look at this. This is our very first blueprint. I know it might look like a bunch of code, but trust me, it's just a simple set of instructions for a table we'll call students. Let's break down exactly what each line is telling the database to do.
See, it's really just plain English in disguise. Create table students. Well, that's just us saying, let's make a new table and call it students. Inside the parentheses, we're just defining our columns. Student ID int means we want a column for a whole number. Name varchar 50 means we want a spot for text, like a name, that can be up to 50 characters long. An agent is just another column for a whole number. That's it. Simple instructions.
Okay, so we've got a basic blueprint down. Now, let's make it a little smarter by adding some important rules. If our table is like a house, then the columns are the rooms, and we need to be really clear about what's allowed in each one.
So why even bother with rules? Because they are absolutely crucial for protecting our data. These rules, or what we call constraints, make sure the information we store is consistent, accurate, and reliable. Without them, our nice, neat filing cabinet can turn into a total mess really fast. Let's level up with a more advanced blueprint. This one is for an employees table. You'll notice some new keywords here: primary key and not null. These are the rules that are going to make our table way more intelligent and a whole lot more reliable.
So, there are three really important ideas here. First, we've got data types. Things like int for numbers or varchar for text. They just tell the database what kind of info to expect. Second, a primary key. This is a super important rule. It gives every single row its own unique ID, kind of like a social security number for each employee. It's the master key to finding exactly what you're looking for. And finally, not null. It's a simple rule, but so powerful. It just says this column cannot be left empty, period.
And this is a perfect example of why not null is your best friend. Look on the left. Without that rule, you could accidentally add an employee to your database with no name. That's not just messy, it could cause your app to show weird blank spots or even crash. But on the right, with not null in place, the database acts like a bouncer at a club. It rejects any entry that doesn't have a name, keeping your data clean and professional.
All right, let's talk about making things even easier for ourselves. We can actually add smart settings to our data blueprint that do some of the work for us. We do this with something called a default value, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's a preset value that the database will just automatically pop in for you if you happen to forget to specify one yourself. Think of it like a helpful assistant that's always there to fill in the blanks.
This is the perfect before and after scenario. Imagine you're building a to-do list app. In step 1, someone adds a new task but forgets to set its status.
Without a default value, that status is just empty, which is kind of useless. But if we go back and add default pending to our tables design, boom, the database automatically fills it in for us every single time. No more empty fields, no more confusion.
And this is what it looks like in the actual code. You can see right there, on the status line, we've just tacked on default pending. It's such a small change to our blueprint, but it saves a ton of time and prevents a whole category of errors down the road.
Okay, so we've learned how to design and build these tables. But where does this all actually, matter? Let's take a look at how tables show up in the real world, from your own personal projects to the biggest companies on the planet. You can start using this stuff right now for yourself. You could easily create a table to track your personal expenses, or maybe a log for your daily workouts, or even build a digital inventory of your book collection. It's an incredibly powerful way to get your own life organized.
And here's the crazy part. Those exact same principles scale up to build what I like to call data skyscrapers. Companies use tables to manage millions, literally millions, of customer records, to run their entire employee database, and to process every single order and transaction that happens. Tables are the absolute bedrock that modern business is built on.
So let's just quickly recap the 3 big ideas. Create table is what builds the blueprint. Column definitions are the rules you set to guarantee you have good, clean data. And default values are the smart settings that save you time and cut down on mistakes. If you can master these 3, you're well on your way.
And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? You could have the most amazing, flashiest app in the world, but if the tables holding the data underneath are poorly designed, the whole thing is eventually just going to fall apart. A strong, well-thought-out table is always the first step to building anything reliable and lasting.
So in the end, a table is so much more than just a box to put data in. It's the foundation that gives an idea its structure, whether that idea is a simple budget tracker for yourself or a global e-commerce website. You now know how to draw the blueprint. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?